A blessed Sunday to all. Today, we talk about love. Love is the most common language of humanity because it is the basic, the most fundamental passion of man, and because man, each one of us, needs love. Without love, we cannot survive. We cannot live. We read in the sacred scriptures that God is love. God Himself is love. And it is God who made man. When Genesis says that God created man in His own image and likeness, we can always say also that when God created man, it was God who gave man the capacity to love. And if man is the image and likeness of God, who is love, man should also be love, no? Logically. Of course, man remains to be a creature. Man remains to be a sharer of God's divine life. Man remains to be a sharer of God's love. If there is any capacity of man to love, it is because of the divine in him, we may say. It is God who makes man love. Okay? That does not take away, however, the free will of man. Okay? Let's take first to that point. God made man in His own image and likeness. God is love. And God gave man the capacity to love. So that when man loves, he expresses the divine in him. And that is so beautiful. No wonder that St. John in the scriptures would say that we are children of God, and we reflect that being children of God if we know also how to love, just as God is love. If God is Himself is love, and He is the author of love, He is the one who gives us the faculty to love, we can also say that without God, we cannot possibly love truly. No. God Himself said, without me, you cannot do anything. Because, as we have just heard in the Gospel last Sunday, Jesus says, I am the vine, you're the branches. Apart from me, you cannot bear fruit. And this fruit, we can borrow this language, this fruit is love. So, in order for us to love truly, we have to have God in us, God with us. Okay? Without God, we cannot truly love. When do we have God with us? When do we have the divine in us? Especially when we are in the state of grace. We are first grafted to Christ at baptism, and then in the rest of the sacraments. We have that continuous communion with God in us. And when we say we love, it is because we have God with us who continues to be in us, or we continuously have communion with Him in the sacraments. It is very important, therefore, to encounter God in these sacraments so that we may know how to love continuously. We know that, as we read Genesis, even if man is in the image and likeness of God, man, because of his free will, also betrayed God. He fell into sin. That is why the capacity of man to love has also its own defects. Man may love something which is not good for him, which may not be according to the design of God. The more we need Christ, the more we need God to be with us, so that our capacity to love may always be purified. there are instances, many instances when we claim to be in love, and yet it is not actually love. It is selfishness. It is, in fact, lust, for example, and it's not love. We have to continuously educate ourselves about this meaning of love. Love can only be truly love if it is divine, if it is of God, if it is according to the will of God, according to the design of God, according to the commandment of God. If we say we love and yet it is contrary to the ways of God, to the commandment of God, then it is not love at all. Let's make some examples. Many young people, for example, may say they're in love. And it is a sad fact that many also of our young people have engaged into premarital sex, which is contrary to the design of God, to the commandment of God. Is it love, or is it just using each other selfishly? It is not love, it is lust. We know also of the strong tendency to fall into sin, the temptations around. We need God's grace to resist so that we may stay in love. And that is why we go back to the point of the importance of our reception of the sacraments, where we receive God Himself, the graces of God, who is love, so that we may continue to reflect the divine in us, which is the capacity to love, God with us, God loving in us, God loving through us. Again, we have to underline the fact that we have our own free will. When I said that when we love, it is the divine loving in us, loving through us. But we have to make a very important clarification. When we love, we are not like machines, no? Controlled by God. No, because we have our own free will, and that is also God-given. So that when we love, it's really us loving. No? It's really us loving. Yes, we need the assistance of God because God is love, and that the authenticity of our love is when it is, as Christ said, love as I love you. No. But again, human as we are, we always need the existence of God. What is to love? St. Thomas Aquinas would tell us that to love is to will the good of the other. Therefore, it is alien to selfishness. No? Even as Christ would say, you have to forget about yourself in order to love the other. But let us underline that one, to will. No? Yes, we know that love it pertains to the emotions. No? It's a passion. But it is also very true that love also resides in the will. No? When we love, we decide to love. We know feelings are good, they are God-given. But we also know that feelings can come and go. But when we love, it should be something stable. We cannot say we love you today and next we don't love you anymore. No. Love also resides in the will. It is to will for the good of the other. But how can we know what is good for the other? We can only know what is good for the other if we know the commandments of God, because God also made the other, and God loves also the other person. And so when Christ says, love one another as I have loved you, we cannot simply say, we love this person and we can do anything we want about that person. No. It should always be according to how God loves that person. Therefore, there is that element of respect also. And we continuously purify our love for the other. And when you say purify the love for the other, because we are conscious of our human frailties. Again, that brings us back to always having this communion with God, especially in the sacraments and in prayer, always, so that we may always love truly as God loves. We can only truly love the other person if we love God. And if we love God, God loves us, and we love God if we follow His commandments. So if we want to love, we first work on ourselves, no? To faithfully follow the commandments of God so that we may truly love the other. Okay? For example, relationship between husband and wife. Okay? They say they love each other, but they don't have time to go to Mass. That is not love at all. I always advise when I officiate weddings, I say, okay, as a good resolution, go to Mass every Sunday together. Do not absent yourself from the Holy Eucharist, the Sunday Eucharist. And go to confession regularly, frequently, perhaps once a month, together if possible. And follow up each other to be faithful to these sacraments, these two sacraments, for example. And if ever one of you would start saying, well, later on or next week na lang, then something is wrong, and something is wrong with that love, and that love relationship between the couple may not last as authentic as we want it to be. Or let's take, for example, the manag-uyab. No? They promise they love each other, no? They care for each other, and unfortunately, the culture also around favors the things that unmarried people should not do, like the premarital sex. And then they say you only love each other if you do that thing. No, because that is against the commandment of God. If your boyfriend or your girlfriend would suggest that you would engage into premarital sex, that is a sure sign that there is no love at all. There is only lust. Because true love is divine. True love is always according to the commandments of God. Why not give it a thought? Let's take a break.